Hey, this is a Cptsd vlog update. Um, I gotta say, I just went for a run and I'm feeling a little better today. Um, I went down on my quetiapine to 0, and last night was, well, I couldn't hardly sleep very well, but I basically just toughed it out, took a loxapine, because I think I might have even forgotten my loxapine during the day. I just took a loxapine and then I eventually fell asleep, but stayed up pretty late because I couldn't sleep. It was up to like maybe 3 probably. And this little guy keeps me company. He always helps me get through it. Very helpful to have a little friend if you're struggling with Cptsd or some kind of mental disorder. It's actually proven that having a pet will help. But anyways, so today I'm feeling like kind of better. Basically, I think what happens is your dopamine is restricted when you take something like an antipsychotic like quetiapine, which is also known as Seroquel, but that makes you feel kind of nothing. So I was feeling kind of nothing, even though I was on a low dose, but going off of it I feel better, and I'm still hoping to get off loxapine, but that's my next one, and I taper very slowly because that's the correct way to do it. You don't want to taper your drugs fast. You want to taper them slowly because your brain basically needs time to adapt. And if it's like a medication like an antidepressant or a antipsychotic, if you taper fast, you can get some pretty bad side effects. I've heard stories, some people say that it's messed them up for like an entire year, just tapering the wrong way, or going through withdrawals. So you have to taper very slowly, which I was mostly doing. I was pretty slow with it. You could even go slower than I was going. You could go up to, I was going like maybe like 2 weeks every lower dose, but you could go up to a month. And you can step it smaller steps too. Like I was stepping it, I was cutting it by halves, but I think you can, there's like a whole website I saw. It's like they have like a regimen for turning your pill into like a water solution, an aqueous solution, and then using like a dropper to like suck up a certain amount so that you can taper in like really small doses. But yeah, that's just some information for anyone who's tapering and wants to do it more slowly in a more safe way. But now I guess I'm feeling kind of like a little okay right now. I think a huge part of why I'm feeling okay is the keto diet, and the other thing is I take SAM-E, and SAM-E, which is S-adenosyl methionine, is helpful for anxiety, and I'm pretty sure I've suffered from like really bad anxiety basically my entire life as far as I can remember. So taking SAM-E actually helps with anxiety, and it's made it more easier to just kind of go throughout my day without like having this feeling like the world is crushing in on me and then I have to like fix everything and like start something that will fix everything right now. You know. So I mean, recently I've started learning biology, through Khan Academy. I never really learned biology, and I think that bio, it's kind of like a direction that I'm thinking I'll be going in. I'm still kind of unsure on that. I'm trying to like see far into the future, but that's really difficult. So I'm just kind of studying bio, and I'm enjoying studying it as well. Like, I never really got the chance to study. Well, I did have the chance. I just never really did. Like in high school, I kind of took like grade 11 bio, and that was it. Uh, and yeah, so I don't know. I never really studied biochemistry or physics. I took grade 11 physics. I never took chemistry. And I took like the intermediate level math. So I was never really a hard sciences person. I was never good at it. And that was simply because I didn't really feel like I could be good at it. Like, maybe I don't have like, I mean, honestly, I probably could have been okay at it if I really was driven for some reason to go in that direction. But now I kind of have more of a reason. Like, I'm more interested now in research for keto, because I do believe in it now. So I'm hoping maybe I could do research for keto. I don't know. But yeah. What do you think? What do you think? So yeah, so that's what's going on. I have a doctor's appointment today where I'm gonna tell the doctor to write me a back to work letter. And even though I don't want to go back there, just because of it was toxic there, and all the people were like stressed or burnt out or super controlling. Ugh. I was working for like child services, basically, like child family services. I was not in that direct department, but I was like in the offshoot department that does like support for the families. And it's just such a hard position, or a hard sector. Like, social work is such a hard sector to be in, I think. God bless the people that do it and do it well, but I think that it's just a really stressful job. I think everybody knows that. I think that I heard that people burn out in like 7 years on average or something like that. Well, I only burned out after like 1 year. But yeah, I was also dealing with a lot of my own issues. Like, my own issues kept getting triggered, especially like whenever anything around like native stuff or indigenous stuff would come up. That's a huge trigger for me, I noticed, because it would like bother me. And I remember one time I just like started crying in my office. Like, someone said something, and then I just like went to my office and I just broke down crying, because like I could not really like say it or like express like the pain I felt from it, and people were just saying like little comments. And I don't know, there's always been like kind of like in Canada, maybe in the US too, there's like a huge tension between the natives, the indigenous, and like the white people. And the best way I could put it is that it's weird because no one will properly talk about it, like, or if they do try and talk about it, they get really super intense. So you can never have like just a conversation like this where people just talk about it, because the way I describe things like this is that it's like almost like energy gets sucked into one or the other person, and it's like you can't, I don't know, it's weird. It's like the energy doesn't just stay in the middle where we talk about what happened. It's like it gets sucked into somebody, or like they suck it all up. And I don't know, it's got to do with both the person speaking and the people listening, because it just doesn't seem like a chill thing. Or like the ability to be chill, because um I think, yeah, people are still mad. There's not a lot of acceptance um around, like, I guess, like the whole colonization thing. And it's weird because, like, the way I try and think about it logically. I'm like, well, everybody's got their own perspective, obviously, and you know, part of your group, like who you're with, defines like what your perspective is, and or like where you come from, right? So like and it's like you can't really change that. um like, you can say that you're on one side or a different side, but it doesn't matter because you still came from a certain group, like your genetic makeup and the history of what happened to you, and or your ancestors or whatever. But I always thought, like, why don't we, like, nobody mourns all of the groups of people that got wiped out entirely. I don't know, it's just like, I don't know, like, it does sound harsh, but part of me is like, with the people who conquered, like the conquerors, some people just call them colonizers or whatever, the people who conquered, like, they conquered for a reason, right? They had better technology and whatnot, but I don't know if it was because I don't think it was because they were evil. Like, I think all people are created equal, right? And um hmm and also, things were so different back then. Like, we don't even have the ability these days to comprehend how somebody thought back then, because we know so much stuff that they didn't know, so we kind of hold a different standard. So things that would be normal to people back then are completely different to people now, you know, and not always in a way that people now are somehow superior. I actually think people now are like more separated from God, and they think they're really, really smart, but I don't know if they are like as smart as they think. Um, and I think that, yeah, I think there's not a lot of acceptance, that's for sure. And that's a sad thing. Like, I noticed that a lot of issues that Native people have, like, I don't know. I mean, Native people have a really strong, um, well, a fairly strong, they would always say that it used to be stronger, but they have compared to everybody else, they have a fairly strong, like, cultural sense. Maybe not all of them, for sure. There's a lot that are suffering. I don't know, it's just like such a big topic. And I guess the way I think about it is like, what could we do now? You know? And that's why I focus on, like, well, are there methods for healing traumas? Are there methods for healing your body? And what, once you're healed, then how could you live like a good life, right? And you know, that's kind of where I'm at. And I don't really love just like blaming and hating, like spending all our time blaming and hating. I don't know. So yeah, my dad he's really angry still. He's got like a low grade anger. That's what my auntie says anyway, but it's true. And he says like really horrible stuff. I used to say a lot of stuff like that. I haven't really said that stuff, even though it's in a while, even though it's like, I think some of that stuff, like, I think like the N word, I think like slurs against like LGBT people, I think like, uh, I don't know, maybe just those two. Like, call things like retarded in my head, but that's kind of how I used to talk. I haven't talked that way in a while, but I haven't lived near my dad in a while. But yeah, he's got like a low grade anger, and I mean, it's kind of sad. It is sad because it just gets in the way of like having a loving family, you know? Um, but I think maybe deep down he does love us, me and my siblings, but yeah, he was never really around when I was growing up either, so but yeah, he's the one who's on the native side, so he's really got like anger toward white people and also police. Yeah, but he also says he's a communist, which I think is stupid. I think communism is stupid. And but yeah, I don't know what you could do about it. Like, I guess the only thing you can do is just love them as they are, but that's really hard, even especially when it's your parents, because if your parents did a whole bunch of stuff that like hurt you when you were a kid and that you had no, that was literally like, at least as far as I could think of it, was unfair because you're a kid, you have no idea what's going on, really. And if you get like traumatized, it takes you so long to figure out what's going on. Like, and that's because you just don't feel safe, you don't feel loved, you don't feel nurtured, you don't feel like that, like things are gonna be okay. And so anyways, it's like, it does get kind of hard. Like, I guess the resentment is like what's beneath that makes it hard. Like a resentment, like kind of like not trusting, why didn't you do this that way, why didn't I get this, why wasn't my childhood this way, how come this happened, how come that happened. And like, my dad never really has any answers. Like, I never really asked him straight up all those questions, but he has kind of alluded to that it wasn't his fault, essentially. But I've talked about this in another video, and I've said, like, basically all we could do is take responsibility for the situation we're in, even if we didn't even put ourselves in that situation. If we're, like, an adult, the best thing we could do is take responsibility and try and basically do the best we can with that situation, and then move on in a good way, like in a way that is healthy, as healthy as we could try, right? But yeah, it's not, I'm not saying any part of that is easy. I'm not saying that's easy at all. It's actually really hard. It's a lot easier to like be very pissed off and angry and blame stuff and like just like, but that's a trap. That's like a something that you just get sucked into, and it kind of like steals your life force and your energy, really. Like I was trying to say earlier, like when I said that it feels like energy gets, when you try and bring up these conversations about like, you know, past injustices between groups of people, like indigenous and whites, blacks and whites, or whatever. I don't know about blacks and whites because I'm not too familiar with the situation on a personal level, but I know that on the indigenous level or whatever, at least as far as I've noticed in Canada, it feels like the energy gets sucked into someone. And that's what I'm saying, like it's like the energy doesn't remain in the middle, and where people could kind of freely talk about it and have their thoughts be heard, acknowledged, and like respected in a way. It feels like the energy gets sucked in some way to the person who's like really grieving or mourning or in shame or in something. It's because, and then you can't really say much because it's like, now I don't want to hurt this person further, right? You can't really say anything logical almost. And that I feel like is difficult. Like that's really, really difficult. That's like where free speech starts to get cut off. And that makes, I don't know if that's a good thing, honestly. I think that's a bad thing. But I guess there's like certain times and places for these things. But yeah, I'm just glad I can talk about it here because at least I can talk about it a little bit. It feels like you can't even hardly talk about this stuff even with like therapists. Like therapists get weird about it too. Like there's very few people that you can have like a genuine conversation with. Anyways, see you later.